Live from the CBW Radio UK studios in Chelmsford, this is Off the Record with Big C and his trusty companions, Jazzy Jeff and Stinky Pete.
Way, Jazzy Jeff has made it. He's made it. And he's got top billing over Pete. He's got top billing over Stinky Pete. Obviously an alphabetical thing there. Whichever way you look at it, actually, Big C and Colin comes before Jazzy Jeff, J and G, and that comes before S and P for Stinky Pete. So there you have it. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Shaggy.
I thought S&P was Standard and Poor's.
Yeah, I suppose it could be.
It's a ratings agency, isn't it? So very appropriate for what we're doing, I would have thought.
Oh, okay. Well, it's better than S&M, I suppose.
Well, don't go down that route. Or M&M.
Not this early.
Allegedly.
Season 7.
Well, I don't know.
7.
It's 10 o'clock.
We've made it. Yeah, we passed the watershed. Season 7, we have been recommissioned for Off the Record. This is episode 171, so season 7, episode 1. And I have with me, in front of me, my trusty companions, in no particular order, but Jazzy Jeff and Stinky Pete. Who's both appropriately American attired today. I know, Jazzy Jeff's got an NYPD top on there, and Stinks has got a American Eagle on his shirt. All I could come up with, if you're listening on Spotify, this doesn't mean a lot, but I've got a John Fogerty shirt on, which might tell you one of my acts from later on in the show. So what have we got to do today? Are we both okay, by the way? Are we good after our 2-week rest from Off the Record?
Yeah, I'm having a party.
All right, okay. You sound so sincere there, Stinks.
That was my most sincere voice.
I'm sure it was. All right, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a humdinger, I think, today. Could be interesting. I've had so many bits of paper, and I thought, what are we going to do? And I think we'll be winging it a little bit tonight. Because it was Independence Day in the States
last
Friday, was it? Well, it was the 4th of July, whenever that was. I think it was Friday.
It was.
Yeah. So even though they wanted to get rid of us in 1776, whatever it was, we are considering all our American artists today in tribute to the Independence Day, which should be fun. And there are so many American artists, musical artists across the board, across the genres, across the decades. I'm sure there'll be a hell of a lot that we can discuss. We've got favourites from each of us that we will mention along the way. Also, I tried to throw in a curveball the other day, saying, "Look, I want to put," and I've done something here, and I think I might lead in with that as we start the show this week. American Idols. Remember, we've done, like, I'd say this one thing. We did the 4 English. They happen to be English, British, but they happen to be English, as I said, stalwart bands. Do you remember what we did?
Yeah.
Beatles, Stones,
Floyd and Zeppelin.
And Zeppelin, right? The 4 heavyweights, if you like, of the English music scene. And I'm thinking, if you did an American one, what would the 4 be? I mean, are they on that sort of level?
This is my starting point for this entire episode of the podcast.
Okay. Well, that's a good question I asked then. Or you have an answer to it, or you just...
Well, yes, I looked at it and I thought, right, if I think I love loads of American artists and I've got an extensive list. But if you said to me, who are all of the biggest bands that I love the most, with one and a half exceptions, say 2, they're all English. So actually, and then I started looking at it and going, right, think about, I mean, what's my big thing? My big thing is rock. So then start thinking about the American rock acts, and with a few exceptions, they ain't even close to the big English ones. So I looked at it and went, so what has America given to popular music? Country rock, southern rock, singer-songwriters, jazz, fusion, soul, Motown, blues. So there's loads and loads of stuff. But in all of those genres, who are the big heavyweights? Now, I've got a list because you told me I had to have, but I struggled with that, whereas the English one was very, very easy.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I think if you look at it, I assume you're the same, Jez.
I'm not.
You like the American side rather than the English side?
I'm not. So I think I would struggle to do this with English music.
Oh, really?
Now, I probably could, but I'd struggle. I really struggled with American to actually narrow it down to 10, and I only got as far as 11 because I wasn't prepared to give up any of the ones that I got.
No, I'm sure.
But I looked at it. I started with the concept of pioneers of greatness.
Yep.
And then I thought, actually, they aren't my favourites. So when you came back to me and said, let's look at icons, whatever, I thought, okay, that goes back to where I first started. Because my favourites are people that I can listen to all day without getting bored and without wanting to turn it off, or thinking, oh, I've had enough now. And actually, there are some of those, but they are not necessarily the pioneers of greatness, most of whom have come out of the States. So if you look at Woody Guthrie, the Carter family, Muddy Waters, people of that nature, B.B. King,
yeah,
let alone going on to New York Dolls or Elvis or Michael Jackson, all of whom have come out of the States, and other people have built their genres and their fame and their styles off those people.
Maybe so. Or maybe that the English variation of. I mean, I got a quote from Gene Simmons. That's not the actress, by the way. But
that's the singer
bass
of
I think
Kiss.
it's a bass player, isn't it? From Kiss, yeah. And he was claiming that UK bands were always better than American bands. He said. I mean,
100% agree.
and I quote: "The Brits gave us the Beatles and Led Zeppelin. We gave them the Grateful Dead." That was his quote.
You see, I will take the Grateful Dead every single day over Zeppelin. Every single day.
You see, I've got the Grateful Dead's greatest hits, and absolutely every single song is the same, and I've played it twice since I owned it.
Ooh. Well, many would say maybe a lot of Led Zeppelin songs sound the same, though, I guess.
But they all sound the same.
They really don't, and that's the difference. I mean, not even close.
Well, they certainly use some of Muddy Waters and the
not
like.
even close.
Oh, this is what we like. 6 and 7.
They're all loud.
Controversial start.
That's exactly what they're not. So,
well, I'll tell you what. I'm just briefly looking at UK versus US. So I've sort of narrowed it down to about 8 different genres. There are obviously loads more, and many that I have little interest in, to be honest. But it's fairly even, I thought. Early, obviously the roots are the likes of Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, Jerry Lewis, Muddy Waters, as Jeff said. Who else? Elvis, of course. All of those. Little Richard is US, definitely. And I would say then in the 60s, it was more the UK. You had the British invasion.
Yep.
You had the Beatles and you had the Stones. I mean, the American, and you had a load more after that as well. I mean, at that point in the early 60s, what did they have? The Americans had like Dylan, Beach Boys, maybe Birds, maybe. But then as the 60s went on, they did get a few more like Creedence and the Doors and Hendrix, etc., etc. Janis Joplin, maybe all a lot. We might mention some of these. But I think overall, the British invasion meant the UK won that, of course, because it's British invasion. Prog, I think America don't beat the UK, and I'm not a great
They
fan
don't have
of
any.
prog.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, they probably would argue there's some. I can't think who there might be, but
Well, they'd argue Kansas, and they'd
Kansas.
say Rush, who are Canadian anyway. That's it.
yeah, okay, fair enough. And then punk, I would say certainly that I think the Pistols and the Clash originated here. I mean, I know they had
They
origins
did,
in
but the New York Dolls and the Ramones,
New York Dolls and the
and the
Ramones.
Ramones are over there.
And the
Aside, they
Tubes, who were better than all of them.
well, debatable
That's
on
the
that one.
debatable point, yeah.
Or not.
I'd give the UK the punk vote, but then the hard rock was tricky as to whether or not the likes of I think we know. I don't know which one you'd like, Jeff. Zeppelin, Deep Purple. I'm just shouting out names here of the UK. Queen, Uriah Heep, Quo, Def Leppard, White Snake, Black Sabbath, Motorhead, Judas Priest. That lot versus the US, Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith, Heart, Van Halen, Grand Funk, Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, Kiss, Skid Row. It's sort of fairly even, but I'd give, maybe because I'm English, I'd give English the nod, definitely.
It's not. I mean, it's not even close.
Not even close. All right, okay. And then the rest.
I will give England the benefit on it as well. It's not I don't mind an occasional track,
No.
an occasional song, but genuinely speaking, all that stuff passes me by. Like Zeppelin, 3 good songs. That'll do for me. Deep Purple, 1 good album. That'll do for me. You know, and I'm not saying that other people shouldn't like them, but because they should, because that's what they're there for. But it doesn't do it for me. But certainly on the rock side, I think England, generally speaking, have got the start point better than the States. Now, what's gone on since, I couldn't tell you because.
I mean, I would say the Americans would win probably after that sort of era with the likes of metal, grunge.
Yeah, well,
and Southern rock, of course. Southern rock,
which I really love.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
which I really
got
love.
a tune, not just a noise.
Well, yeah, but then again, you know, that's a lot of the bands, the Deep Purples, the Led Zeppelins. They're not noise; they have very good tunes. So,
well, I'll tell you what I'd suggest.
dismissive.
I'm going to do. I did mention the other day, like we've got some icons, and some of these, no doubt, you will have as pioneers, or as Jeff called them, pioneers, or your favourites, or just like an iconic artist. I'm going to run through a few of what I've written down. We did so many icons of different genres. We haven't specifically done an American icons, like just icons, American artists. And I've written down a few, and I'm sure you've got to agree on some of these. Right, first up, and comments.
Hang on, well, before you how are we doing this?
Well, as I said,
okay, and I'm asking this for a reason because I've got a list of 27 American acts.
Right. Okay.
Okay, which I've divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 genres.
Good Lord.
And in each of those, I have got at least 1 icon, and in 3 of them, I've got 2 icons.
All right. Okay.
Well, so if you're going to do an icons list, or whatever it is you called them, then I can do that, but it's split across all of the genres.
I've
that's
got
fine.
11 icons, none of which are in my favourites list.
Interesting. Okay.
I've got 11 favourites, none of which, surprisingly, are in my icons list.
Well, okay, so I think it depends on how you define icon. Because if we go back to podcasts we've done in the past, I admitted that Elvis Presley was an icon. I can't stand the bloke, but I admitted he was an icon. Yep. It obviously doesn't appear on any of these lists because 1, we've done it already, and 2, that for me that wasn't what it was about. So you know.
Well, I've got Elvis down as an icon, so obviously he's not a favourite American artist, but all American artists, man on the street, woman on the street, are going to think Elvis Presley. And yeah, I mean, he's the king of rock and roll. You don't like him, Jeff? You don't mind him, do you?
I quite like Elvis, yeah.
Yeah, quite like Elvis. So,
But we have talked about Elvis a lot of times.
Yep. So I'm not going to be going on too long. But what about Dylan then? We've done him too, but he's got to be a US icon of music.
I haven't got him on either list.
Dylan is on both of my lists.
Okay. So he's a folk icon, I would say, definitely. I mean,
for me, he's a singer-songwriter icon, but yes.
Yep. Okay.
But
fair enough.
For me, I've got Woody Guthrie, not Dylan.
Okay.
Because I think without Guthrie, there's no Dylan. Full stop.
True.
Well, I've deliberately I haven't got any of the old people, and of that list that you said, Muddy Waters, yes, but he isn't on my list. All of the rest couldn't care less.
He's not on my list either. But
he's not overall on my list. So a lot of these icons, I wouldn't necessarily. I don't know actually whether I've got any of these on my favourites list. But that I just thought briefly I'll give them a mention. I think icons, American icons, musical icons, Bob Dylan, Elvis Presley. You shout out if you disagree with some of these. Elvis Presley, Stevie Wonder.
I've got Stevie Wonder on my list yet.
I haven't got him.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Not a US icon, musical icon.
But I didn't do. But this is where the briefing for the podcast broke down. I didn't look at icons. I looked at the American acts I like, and then afterwards, when you threw the icons thing in, I then went through the acts that I've got and said, all right, which ones of those do I think are icons? So I haven't done icons. I haven't done Presley. I haven't done any of that. Like Michael Jackson. You know I like Michael Jackson.
I've got Jackson as an icon, not on my favourites.
No, well, he's not one of my favourites, but I thought he needed to have a mention. I thought that top American artists, he's got to be up there, whether he's a favourite of any of us three. I mean, maybe there's not a lot of point in me going through these icons then, and we can just mention them in passing. I mean, I've got a few.
How many have you got?
I've got about a dozen of actually icons.
How many have you got, Jeff?
11.
Right, I've got 1, 2.
I've got nothing to say about them other than to offer them as names.
Throw them as an icon.
3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 8.
And I lied. I have got one of them on my list. My apologies.
Okay. List. Right. Okay. I'll just mention these other icons then briefly.
Yeah.
I've got Frank Sinatra.
Yep. Me too.
Got him too. Okay. A Johnny Cash.
No, but I went for the Carter family.
All right. Which, his missus was one of them. So, okay. Now I've got a Hendrix down. Hendrix was an interesting one.
Yeah, he's on mine.
Because, I mean, Noel, what's his name, Redding and Mitch Mitchell were both Brits, weren't they, ironically?
But Hendrix was American.
He's an American. He's definitely
the sound was American.
Definitely American. One of the greatest instrumentalists in rock music history, and he is American, so he had to be there. Now, one that you might have, I don't know, it's more your genre, possibly even Stinks. I've written down Miles Davis, not my bag.
I haven't got him, no. He is more my genre.
I love Miles Davis, and if I'd thought harder about the jazz thing, I probably would have had him as my icon. I've got 3 on my jazz fusion list, none of which I've got as icons. They're too niche, but Miles Davis probably is.
I've got a few of my favourites, but on my icon list, I've got Louis Armstrong.
Oh, I got Louis Armstrong on my favourites list, actually.
You see, I've come at this from a completely different angle, because all of those, Frank Sinatra, all that lot, I didn't even consider them. Yes, they are icons, but I didn't come at it from that angle.
They are American. They are American.
Yeah, it's fine, but I came at it from what are my favourite American artists, and then I backloaded it and said which of those are icons.
All right. Well, I've got a few others, but I mean, I've got a couple of probably are not your bag, and I know one of them definitely isn't your bag, but I'd have to say they were an icon. Female. Can you get 2 female icons of recent?
I've got one.
I mean, one's been around for about.
I've got one female icon.
Madonna.
Madonna, I've got down as an icon. She's got to go down as an icon, but not overall.
I wish you would, because an icon is silent and hanging in a church somewhere and doesn't say anything.
There you go.
Who's the
And
other one you've got, Carl?
Taylor Swift I've got down as well.
Yeah, it's a fair point, actually. I haven't got her, but it is a fair point. I've got Carole King as my female icon.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Because I think without Carole King, the middle class woman doesn't have music. Like she brought it into middle class female America.
She's on my list, but she's not an icon. Not on mine.
Right, let's go for favourites. I think that would probably be the good.
Well, hang
thing
on. If you've done yours, now you do yours, Jeff. Then I'll do mine. Then
the ones that I've got on top of that, I've got the New York Dolls, because I think punk doesn't exist without them. I've got Marvin Gaye. I've got B.B. King, Not Muddy Waters, purely and solely because of what he did for blues music as a general popular thing to play, because he invented a way of playing it that everybody can play, and I think that makes a big difference. And the other one, which I think is reasonable, I don't like the style of music, and I don't think anyone here does, but DJ Kool Herc, I think, has got to be on there as well, who is the guy that invented hip hop and rap.
I was trying to find actually who if I was looking at all these genres, that's one of the genres I missed out, hip hop, rap. I wasn't sure who to put in as an icon for that particular genre.
He's technically Jamaican, but he lived in the States for most of his life. So I put him in, and so without him, it doesn't exist. Or sorry, it doesn't exist in its format as it is. So I put him in.
If he'd been drowned at birth, none of this crap would have happened.
Yeah, something like that.
Excellent.
Something like that.
Someone missed a trick. Someone missed a trick there.
So any more, Jeff, or should we go over?
No, you've.
We'll go over to Grumpy. Go on, Grumps. Sorry,
right,
Stink.
So I've got Stevie. So I've got Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
I've got Tina Turner.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that I'm looking at iconic, not icons. So I'm looking at, if you talk about a genre and you go, right, who are the standout artist or band in that genre? What is it about them? Then I think Tina Turner, she's had musicals done about her. She was, she's had a stellar career. I would say Tina Turner had to be in there. I've got the Eagles as an iconic American band. They are
American band. Yeah.
Of an all-American band, country rock, which is a genre in itself. I don't think you can have that conversation without Eagles. I've got Lynyrd Skynyrd as the Southern rock iconic band. You can't, again, there's lots of Southern rock band, and I like Jeff does because he's got a tune and all the rest of it. But they are iconic because of the accident, because of the way they perform, because of the 3-guitar attack, because just they sum up everything that the best of American Southern rock was about. I've got Hendrix. I've got Janis Joplin. I don't think you can. For me, you can't have a conversation about. I mean, she is the defining female voice of the '60s. I've got Dylan.
Yeah,
and I've got Joni Mitchell. I don't think
Joni Mitchell was a good shout.
So they were.
Isn't she Canadian?
List. Right?
Isn't Joni Mitchell Canadian?
If she is, then she's not American and she doesn't count. Who knows?
I don't know. I thought she was. Maybe she's not.
You may well be right. As I say, my research for this was 20 minutes when Colin told me what we were doing. So
yeah, I didn't.
I'm getting the blame, basically. Yeah.
Well, okay, no.
Right,
so I didn't choose Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young because one of them's Canadian and one of them's English. So
that's fair. That's fair. But it sounds like you have got, other than Joni Mitchell in there from Canada, you have got a lot of icons. So you did do some icons. It's just you missed out certain genres.
I didn't do any of the ones we've already done because I thought there's people listening to this. What's the point?
They'd have forgotten.
They probably would have done.
Can I just say, listeners on Spotify, my brother just insulted all of you, and I shall deal with him later. Of course, you didn't forget.
Yeah, but we're not actually covering the same old ground though. It is just we are doing American artists, and we're throwing in a lot of these American artists as our favourites. Whether they're iconic, whether they're not iconic, ultimately we're looking at our favourites. All those iconic ones I mentioned, I don't think I've got, other than maybe Eagles. I've got Eagles in my favourite list actually. But there were bands that preceded Eagles. I mean, you're looking at John Fogerty. You're looking at Creedence Clearwater Revival. We're looking at the Byrds, who probably had three different. They had like the jangly pop, the harmonies. They went into psychedelia, and then they went into country rock. They're almost a pioneer of country rock, which
I
then
agree.
was taken
Absolutely
on.
agree with you. But if you talk to the average person on the street and say
wouldn't know
name
Creedence
a
much.
country rock band, they're not going to name Creedence. They're not going to name the Byrds. They're going to name the Eagles.
I love both. I love both, and
I love all
yeah,
three.
I think you're right. Yeah, Birds, Creedence, Eagles, even Poco in there as well. But then, if they
Absolutely.
haven't heard of Creedence, they won't have heard of Poco.
Won't have
The
heard of
Main
Poco.
Street. If you think Jeff has upset all the audience members listening to the podcast, you've upset everyone walking on the street as well, because I'm sure some of them would know some of these bands. Wouldn't they?
I shall test this out when I.
You'll
when I
walk
go-
up the street and ask them.
With a
I
microphone.
shall
yeah,
wander
yeah.
around Dunstable at the weekend asking people to name their favourite country rock bands.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be very
Interesting
interesting.
indeed. I think if you get into name American bands, certainly country bands, probably Eagles, yeah, would be there. But they're such a good band, aren't they, Eagles?
Yeah, brilliant.
So, have you got them on your favourites list, Pete?
Yes,
So all three of us have got that. Have got the Eagles on our
Yeah.
favourites.
they're the only one on my country rock list.
Yeah, well, I haven't genred it up. I've just put the people. Let's say I wrote down 11 people who, if they're on, I will listen. I will not switch it off. If they were on all day, I would listen and not switch it off. There will be one or two songs that I don't like as much, but I could listen to these guys, these ladies, these bands all day without an issue.
Mm.
Well, two of mine
Eagles.
I regularly do listen to pretty well all day without issue. So
So yeah, the Eagles are there for all of us.
They
Yeah.
are indeed, and I've also got Creedence in there as well. I do love Creedence. They're almost more. I mean, Eagles developed into more of a rock band, didn't they? When Joe
Eventually.
Walsh turned up, yeah, for the last couple of albums. But Creedence were pretty much the same throughout. Country rock, good
I
tunes.
struggle with Creedence. I like Creedence, but Fogerty has a voice which is slightly grating, and he plays that jangly type of guitar, and eventually it gets to me. So after too much of it, I go, no, I can't do this anymore.
Well,
Yeah,
some
I
of
get
these
that.
you wouldn't be able to listen to these all day anyway, probably, because a lot of them. I mean, Eagles only had what six albums?
Yeah,
was it?
6, 7 hours. Yeah, but
Steve-
it was the concept of all day, not the specific.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, no, but
Yeah.
two of mine, I pretty well. If you take all day as being 9 till 5, you could pretty well do that with two of mine with just the amount of stuff of theirs that I've got. So
Well, you could.
You could.
Whether everyone could, it's
no,
another
no,
matter.
they're both. No, I think they're both albums that Jeff would feel the same. So both bands with Jeff would feel the same. We'll see.
All right. So we've all got Eagles.
Yeah.
What's one of your favourites? I've got a list of ones I think might be your favourites.
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to Pete at the moment.
Okay.
Well,
Um,
I'm gonna do mine by genre. So I'll chuck out all of the bands in the genre, and then if we want to talk about them, we can.
Okay.
So in the soul and Motown one, I've got Stevie Wonder, I've got Tina Turner, I've got the Four Tops, I've got Diana Ross and the Supremes. So they're my four that fall into that category. There's loads of others that I like, but gun to the head, they're the four I'm going to choose.
All right. Well, I had on your list. I've got Diana Ross. I've got the Four Tops. And Stevie Wonder, you said, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had him on the icon list. So yeah, I've got him down on your list as well.
Yeah.
So you're just talking Motown soul, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
didn't have-
I could have chosen Philadelphia stuff. I could have chosen Barry White. I could have chosen Teddy Pendergrass. I could have chosen any of those guys, Quincy Jones. But ultimately, I said, all right, what's the stuff that's been around? And I absolutely love Tina Turner. You know, I've got one of her albums. I've got her Greatest Hits album. I've got stuff with Ike. I just think she's got a brilliant voice. So I thought, all right, who's my wild card in that? It's got to be Tina Turner. So
Okay.
I don't have any Motown in my 11. I don't have any soul in my 11 at all, which is strange. I've got 2 in my. If I had space for more than 10, 11, then I would have this. I would have Marvin Gaye and I would add Randy Crawford.
Oh yeah,
But-
okay, Randy Crawford.
But generally speaking, there are none of them that I could play for long enough without going, no, I don't want this anymore.
and you see, that's
And
interesting.
Tina Turner, from my perspective, 2 songs and I'm done.
Now, you see, Tina Turner has got a voice for the ages. I think she's absolutely brilliant. But but if you take that principle of play all day, I regularly play my entire Stevie Wonder collection front to back.
Even The Secret Life of Plants, whatever it was.
Secret Life of Plants and Heart of the July. Yeah, play the whole lot right
Yeah.
through.
I love them. Not Secret Life of Plants, it's awful. But the rest
It
of it, I love.
is awful, but
But-
I
but-
own it. So when
but-
I'm doing a playthrough,
Yeah.
I play it anyway.
I own a lot of albums that aren't on this list because I can switch them off. And I wanted to do a list where I went, actually, no, I can do this all day.
Yeah, I get that.
It's very difficult though. For me, I'm very. I'm less likely than Pete, certainly, and maybe you as well, Jeff, to actually sit and listen to the same artist all day. It might seem like I do, but of course I don't. I just don't have enough time to sit there and listen to a whole album. This is why I get told I don't relax enough, and I should do. But I do, and I'm playing on the radio. I'm playing all these different songs, and I love that because you get lots of different styles of music. Can throw stuff in that I like, throw stuff in that other people want to hear, and I have to sit through it all. It's not like I could skip it because, unless it's something I really hate, I might end in a little bit more abruptly. But I try to get them all in because that's what people want to hear. So I don't understand this whole day business. It's a bit alien to me.
I'm using it as a phrase only.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I do not listen to the same music all day. I cannot. I get frustrated. I get bored.
I am literally exactly the opposite. I can listen through the entire output of an artist all day, and what pisses me right off is chopping and changing between all the different genres and going, oh, I've just got into this and now I'm listening to it. Does my head in. So I am very much album after album after album after album, just keep churning them out.
You must hate my radio show.
No, I enjoy your radio show because it's the entire antithesis of what I usually do. But it's the same. I've had the conversation with Wyatt about the shows on Planet Rock. You know, the whole thing about that is you get this, all right, it's all rock, but you get all these different genres of rock. But when I get into it, I'll just play Pink Floyd for the entirety of Saturday and half of Sunday till I've played the lot.
I'd commit suicide by the end of that.
Yeah.
I'd commit suicide if I had to listen to 2 seconds of the Never Mind the Bollocks. So, you know, it depends on what your threshold for suicide is.
Well, there's only one album, so that wouldn't take a whole day to listen to a whole album. Should be all right with that one. Right, okay. Give us another artist then. I'll throw another one in then. Some of my favourites. I've mentioned these 2 before, but I'm having to go for like the American rock and roll era. I haven't gone for Elvis. I haven't gone for Little Richard. I haven't gone for Jerry Lee Lewis. I've got a choice of 2, Buddy Holly or Chuck Berry, and I had to go Chuck Berry because I thought I love Buddy Holly. You know I love Buddy Holly, but there's a limited amount of stuff he did, and Chuck Berry was such. Buddy Holly was too probably, but Chuck Berry seemed to be a massive influence on every guitar band. I mean, everyone plays a Chuck Berry song in their encore, don't they? So even though they all sound the same, arguably, But I had to have Chuck Berry in as one of my favourite American artists. The lyrical, the poetic. It's all about modern life, isn't it? And traveling and stuff on greyhounds or in cars or on Route 66 or whatever it might be. But I love a bit of Chuck Berry. I have Chuck Berry in there anyway. But I do love Buddy Holly as well. But given the two, I didn't want to put both of them in, so I've chosen Chuck Berry.
I've put Buddy
You're more
Holly in my
Chuck Berry,
shout-outs.
Stinks. Chuck Berry is or Buddy?
No, Buddy Holly was in my shout-outs.
Buddy Holly's in your shout-outs.
If I could pick another few, but Buddy Holly would have been in there.
You
Yeah.
can pick another few. I picked 27.
Yeah,
you
but
can pick a few.
that's not the game.
We can throw him in at the
I
end.
wasn't told what the game was, so I just did what I wanted.
That's fair enough.
I thought generally we sort of
go for
generally
10.
did what we do. Yeah, just go for 10 or whatever as our favourites. That's what my favourites are. But I thought this probably will be done in about 10 minutes. Well, not quite 10 minutes. But just to name the ones that we love. That's why I thought, we'll get the iconic side in as well. Which obviously that died a death, didn't it?
It didn't. No, not at all. It was useful. It was good to set that line.
So Chuck, he's giggling away there. Have you got any Chuck Berry or any of those rock and rollers?
No, I can't stand any of that stuff. It's boring and it all sounds the same.
You're being controversial tonight, aren't you?
I'm not being controversial tonight.
Opening the premiere.
I'm talking about the stuff that I like. I don't have a single thing by Chuck Berry, and I don't have a single thing by Buddy Holly. That's not true. I lied. I've got Jimi Hendrix's version of Johnny B. Good, which I think was by one of them. That's it.
Yeah, that's Chuck Berry's
That'll
song.
be Chuck Berry then.
That will be Chuck Berry. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what do you like then, Stinks? Give us one of yours then.
All right. Well, I've got
Another
two,
genre, no doubt.
Yeah, I've got two southern rock bands.
Okay, I know what they are.
Yeah.
Me too.
And I could listen to and do listen to both of them all day, depending on whether I'm in a mellow mood, in which case it's the Allman Brothers, or whether I'm in a wanting to bounce around the house because I'm doing stuff mood, in which case it's Lynyrd Skynyrd. And when we talk about the invasion of the US by the British bands, the Stones and the Beatles and Zeppelin and all that lot, if I think about the bands that I would have wanted to have invaded Britain and been much bigger than they were, then Skynyrd and the Allmans for me are the two bands. Why do I like them? Well, they write great sing-along tunes. Certainly Skynyrd do. They're brilliant musicians, and they've got lots of guitarists, which always makes me very, very happy. And in the case of the Allman Brothers, a lot of their songs are 40 minutes, which makes me even happier. So all in all, it is literally it's heaven for me. I just think it was interesting, Jeff saying, Zeppelin all sound the same. There is an element where all bands all sound the same.
Of course it is.
So, and that's kind of the shtick, because you wouldn't recognise them if they didn't sound the same. The interesting thing is how they kind of spread out from that. And I think what Skynyrd do beautifully is that mixture between quite chunky rock, like Saturday Night Special and Working for MCA, but leave Freebird on its own because it's iconic as a piece. It doesn't need any introduction. But then you've got things like the Ballad of Curtis Lowe, and you've got that much more almost bluegrassy sounding stuff. And I think that within the general genre, I think they do that well. And of course, the other thing is that a lot of the songs are driven by the piano and that kind of whole southern honky-tonk kind of piano sound, which I think is brilliant. And if you then put that into the context of the Allmans, what is it that is the link between Skynyrd and the Allmans? Well, I think it is that piano sound, because Greg Allman, when he's playing that kind of more honky-tonk kind of sound, like on Jelly Jelly, for example, on Brothers and Sisters, then I think that you've got that. But then you've got the kind of like the slide guitar as well, Duane's slide guitar, like you've got Gary Rossington's slide guitar. So I think you've got a link between the bands. But I think the Allmans are much more bluesy. They do a lot more of the old blues standards and kind of these massive extended jams, and that really, I think, is their genius. I can't think of another band that you would put into the same bucket as the Allmans in terms of their sound. And then you can kind of spread out from that and look at the Greg Allman solo albums, which again are really laid back and chilled. You can look at the Dickie Betts albums, which are really laid back and chilled. I just think their whole sound for me is the bit of America that I love.
Can I stop you there for a second?
Yeah, do.
Because one of my favourite 11 is Dickie Betts.
Right.
Not specifically Dickie Betts with the Allman Brothers, or specifically the Allman Brothers with Dickie Betts, but I just think that everything that he's been involved in, he has a style of guitar that just makes me want to listen to it.
100% agree.
It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't frustrate me. It just makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So
I totally get that.
He is one of my favourites. Whether be it with the Allmans, I switch the Allmans off if it goes over 5 minutes because I can't do long songs. But their popular stuff, their shorter, more sort of poppy rocky stuff, just superb. But they're superb, in my opinion, because of Dickie Betts.
He could write a good tune as well, couldn't he?
He could write a good tune. And Duane Allman always said, "I'm the famous one. He's the good one."
Yeah, and I think that's right. I think that is right. But I mean, and I don't disagree with you, but I do think that Greg Allman's style of organ, Hammond organ and piano, I think that's and also his voice. If we're talking about iconic voices, Greg Allman's is an iconic voice. It's not he's not great, but his vocal delivery suits their music perfectly. I just think that the Allmans, yeah, I love them. I think they just work well together.
I'd say, and taking you both back actually. Jeff said it first, and you countered it about the music all sounding the same. He's right. Are they all sounding the same, or is it just the sound of that particular artist?
Yeah, it's the sound of that artist.
It is the sound of that particular artist.
And Jeff obviously likes to sort of chop and change a little bit more. A bit like me, I guess. I would say bands don't always sound the same. I've got an exception to that. Status Quo. I mean, come on.
It's a fair point. There's at least two of their songs that aren't the same.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
While we're on iconic voices, shall I chuck a couple of mine in?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, two iconic voices. We've already mentioned Frank Sinatra. I don't think anyone does it better. I think as a crooner, as a balladeer, call him whatever you like, his sense of vocal timing is exceptional and unsurpassed within that style.
Can I interrupt you for a minute, Jeff?
Of course.
I seem to remember recently you were commenting on Frank Sinatra saying he didn't have the greatest of voices. Was that?
No, he doesn't have the greatest of voices.
That was what you said. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
But
I'm glad you raised that because I was going to.
But he delivers it. He delivers it in absolute perfection of timing. His timing is, if you listen to the music going on behind, and the way that he gets his words in, they don't always seem to fit in, yet he's there. And it's impossible, almost, to mimic it perfectly. He's just like the best at what he does. And because he's got all the big jazz stuff going on behind, I could listen to it metaphorically all day.
All day,
And the other one, and I've said this before, I think, my opinion, which I appreciate is irrelevant to most people, the best voice that there has ever been, that there will probably ever be outside of classical genre.
Is this the same genre as Frank Sinatra, or is this someone different?
It's a similar genre, yes. So it's more, yeah, it is, yeah. But it's female.
Ella Fitzgerald.
Ella Fitzgerald.
Ella Fitzgerald, okay.
I do not believe anybody touches the control that she achieved, or the clarity of voice that she achieved. Aretha Franklin was close, but no cigar.
Billie Holiday.
I was going to say, what about Billie Holiday?
Billie Holiday.
Billie Holiday didn't have the control that Ella Fitzgerald had.
No,
If you listen to the stuff that Ella Fitzgerald does,
No, she's brilliant.
and you go, how on earth did she do that and not lose it halfway through? It's because her control and her tone is absolutely immaculate. And it's interesting. I could listen to her literally all day, not just metaphorically. Like, she's just astounding to listen to.
It's one of those really interesting things. If you take, I mean, I wouldn't have had any of those on my list because that wasn't how I came at this from. But I love both of them. Frank Sinatra is one of those interesting ones. I wouldn't buy a Frank Sinatra album, and I would never choose to play Frank Sinatra when I'm at home in my gaff doing whatever it is I'm doing. It's not me. But if I was somewhere where Frank Sinatra was playing all day, like a bar somewhere, I'd love it and I'd really listen to it. So it's one of those ones where I really appreciate it, but I wouldn't spend money on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would, but wouldn't you? You might spend money for drinks in the bar. You never know.
Well, absolutely certain.
Have you ever been?
Well, maybe, unless somebody else is around.
Better than an even chance that might happen, Colin.
And also, you might have paid to see him in the bar. You never know.
You might have done.
If Frank Sinatra was ever singing in a bar that I was in, then the world has stopped revolving on its axis, not least of which is because he's dead. But anyway.
He's back in bands Elvis.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So that's two of mine.
A couple of other females they mentioned. They're not in any of my lists actually here, but I just think of them when you were mentioning Billie Holiday and Etta James had a great voice.
She did.
She did. There's lots of people who are not here because they're not my favourite. Doesn't mean they're okay. Like I haven't chosen Boz Scaggs. Now, Boz Scaggs is one of my favourite 2 albums in the world. But I haven't chosen him because most of his stuff's crap. But he just nailed it with one particular album.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Whereas all the ones that I have chosen are the ones who basically got it right all the time, in my book.
Is it? It's in my book. It's difficult for anybody to get it right all of the time.
Of course.
So even some of the top bands, in my opinion, I'll be listening to them, and I might want to skip the odd track, which is not a good thing. But would imply that maybe they could have done better. Maybe, as if I know what's good and what's bad.
What's good and what's bad is what you like.
Well, that's
if you hear it and you go, I like that, then it's good.
But it's an interesting point you make about skipping a track. If I'm listening to vinyl, which is mostly what I do, I would never skip a track.
No,
mostly because I think when you listen to an album, you have to go, this was this artist's creative piece that they put together, and it's all supposed to link, even if it's separate songs. And so you listen to something and you go, I don't really like that. But if you don't listen to it, you don't get the purpose of the album, which is why I listen to albums, not singles.
And why, of course, the albums have gone right down the tubes, basically, nowadays, if you pardon the pun.
Because people have got no patience and they can't be asked, and they won't listen to anything more than once. Which is sad, but
albums
true.
Are created by record companies anyway.
Yes, exactly. And they're not of a piece. Albums now are just a series of songs nailed together.
Songs. All right, okay. Which I kind of think an album is a collection of songs, good or bad. But I know what you mean. These are not necessarily put together by the bands these days.
Yeah, no, exactly. They're put together by someone in a A&R suite somewhere.
Right, we're talking American. We're talking all American. I thought I'd have to throw this guy in with his baseball cap in his jeans pocket.
Springsteen.
Now, I suspect he might be one of those voices that Jeff doesn't. Is it
I
great?
don't mind Bruce Springsteen. He's really good at what he does. I would love to see him live.
Mm.
My big brother bought me 5 albums of his once in a box set.
I did.
And I have played them. And
It was
I
the
played
first 5 albums,
and,
isn't it?
and I would pick his greatest hits over all of them because I'm happier with that.
I'm the same. I like Springsteen. I don't love Springsteen.
Yeah, I think I think we're all in agreement there. He's greatest hits probably would be the best thing. I do love the Born in the USA album. Actually, it's almost like a greatest hits anyway.
I love The River. That's the one of his that I.
And I love The River. The River was the single, Cadillac Ranch, was the first single I got by Bruce Springsteen, actually, well after Born to Run and the like. And the River album as well. So that was the first one I got. But then Born in the USA, I like the E Street Band ones, actually, rather than the solo acoustic ones more. I should think that's probably what it was.
I've
And I
got the
thought,
Sega
talking about
sessions.
All American Heroes, you got to go for Bruce Springsteen, I would have said.
Yeah,
Even though
can't
he's
argue with that.
not appreciated by a lot of American listeners these days, I think, due to his politics probably more than anything else. And since half the country or more wouldn't vote for
Well,
who he
half the country love him, and the other half can't stand him. So we know
Well,
which
yeah.
side of the country we sit.
Yes,
Go Bruce.
indeed. Go Bruce, yeah. And I did see him live actually not that long ago at Wembley Stadium, and not the first time. I saw him 86, I think, with the Born in USA tour as well. So great band.
Was he good
Yeah.
live?
E Street Band, good live. Yeah. Okay, whose turn is it next then?
Mine.
Go on then.
Okay.
Another genre.
I'm going to do the singer-songwriter genre next.
Oh, okay.
So
How many?
I've got 5 on that list. I've got Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell, who may not be American.
It's been kicked out. Yeah.
Right. I've got Carole King,
Who Jeff
has
mentioned.
mentioned. I've got Joan Baez. I think if you're talking about, she's got such, she played at Woodstock. She was very much part of the protest movement. I think she is an icon. I was listening to an interview with her actually just a few days ago. I can't remember what it was on, but she's just a really interesting character. And then the other one I've got in that list is James Taylor, because I've got James Taylor's greatest hits, and I love every single one of the songs on there. And it's funny because actually it was the Edlesborough Carnival at the weekend, and I was wandering around, and there's a big vinyl store, vinyl records place, and I was with Kiz, and we were looking around, and they got one of the James Taylor albums in, and she said, "Oh, I really want to buy that." And then we were looking at others, and I really want to buy that, and it ended up being about 100 quid's worth, so I didn't buy any. But but the James Taylor one was one of the ones which leapt out. It was a one with Fire and Rain on it, but. Sweet Baby James, isn't it?
Sweet Baby James,
yeah. So anyway, they are. I mean, brackets Joni Mitchell. So Dylan, Carole King, Joan Baez, and James Taylor. I think all of them are, classically, iconically American artists.
Okay. Singer-songwriter. You got any? You haven't genreized yours, have you, Jeff? So
I have a singer-songwriter. We can I've got 2, depending which way you want to look at it.
Well, Carole King you had presumably.
Oh, Carole King I put in as an icon, whatever.
All right, okay.
I haven't got her in my favourites list. Although I do like her. I mean, not unsurprisingly, I've got Paul Simon in my favourites.
Of course.
But we've talked about him so much, we don't need to go on about that. But just he is what he is, with or without Garfunkel. He's I could just listen all day.
Right? Can I just jump in here? Joni Mitchell is referred to as a Canadian-American singer-songwriter. So born in Canada, but raised in America. So she's called a Canadian-American. So I'll leave.
We'll let you have Joni Mitchell, Peter. Well, you can go off and hiss on your lawn all you like.
I hiss on my lawn regularly.
So the other singer-songwriter I've got is country, really. But they are a singer-songwriter, and that's Willie Nelson.
Ah,
Good old
Who-
Billy.
I think he's just brilliant
Yeah, absolutely.
because he writes so cleanly and so uncomplicatedly. Is that a word? Probably is.
it's a good one, though.
And he delivers it so cleanly and so uncomplicatedly
Yeah.
that there's nothing not to like. Like he's written some superb songs, and he just sits there or stands there and plays them. You know,
Like Neil Young, I guess, maybe in a similar way.
yeah, I
Different
could
genre.
live without. I could live without Neil Young for the whole of my life.
Interestingly, Willie Nelson, Willie Nelson's son, who is now playing in Neil Young's band
It's Admiral Lord.
in the Chrome Arts.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's Willie Nelson's son.
Did you see Neil Young at Glastonbury?
I didn't go to Glastonbury, but
you saw it on
I
TV.
saw it on the TV. It was brilliant. He was absolutely fantastic.
I saw him live in Hyde Park a few years ago.
He's live in Hyde Park.
He was great live. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And one or two Neil Young, the first two albums and one or two of his other stuff, fantastic. But I can't listen to him all day. I can't listen to him for more than an hour.
No, I have Neil Young days, and I can play right through all of my Neil Young albums, just one after the other. And by the time you get to the end of Ambulance Blues, you're thinking seriously about throwing yourself off a building. But then it comes to American Stars and Bars, and it's fine. So you got to ride the wave with Neil Young.
He does have one of those voices that would no doubt great after a little while, I'd have thought.
He is a god. Absolutely love him.
He also speaks
you can't count him because he's not American.
No.
So
he's
Willie
not
Nelson,
Canadian American then.
Willie Nelson's not only American, but he's pseudo Native American, and that gives him a double line as far as I'm concerned.
Right,
absolutely.
Okay.
And of the bands that we've covered so far, who is the other Native American who appears in one of our other selections?
And we've mentioned them already.
I have, yes.
You have.
I don't know. It's not Hendrix, is it?
No. Out of Lynyrd Skynyrd, Ricky Medlock.
Oh, okay. No, I wouldn't have got that.
He is the sole remaining live member of the original lineup, original lineup, and he is a Native American.
Okay. Now, if you asked anyone on the street about Lynyrd Skynyrd or the Allman Brothers, would they know them?
They'd know Sweet Home Alabama because it's been on everything, but they wouldn't know.
That's true. It's been on films and adverts and everything.
Yeah.
Allman Brothers, though?
No chance. Well,
but they know Willie Nelson.
Yeah, they'd know Willie Nelson, and they might know. They might know Jessica, but only because of Top Gear.
Yeah, no, maybe. Yeah. Okay, you mentioned Paul Simon. I've got Simon and Garfunkel as my American favourites. The two of them together. Again, not enough albums. Only about 6 albums. 5, 6 albums. Yeah, 5 albums. Yeah.
Well, 5 plus Live in Central Park.
Yeah.
We don't count
studio albums.
Yeah, we do. It's a brilliant album.
It is a very good double album.
It's fantastic.
You don't like it?
I do like it, but I don't count live albums ever.
No. Oh yeah, because you're not a live fan. Yeah, I'd rather listen to a studio than a live. I would disagree with Pete again here, no doubt. But yeah, that is a good live album. Actually, I do like that one. Wish I was there actually in '82. All right, singer-songwriters, American.
Yeah, done that one.
Billy Joel.
Oh, nice one. Yeah, good shout.
Have to have him in there. It's another. It's a competition of its own between the USA and the UK, of course, with him and Elton John, as to which one is the best. And
I think they're very different.
Yeah, I was just going to say they both play the piano. That's kind of about as far as it goes.
So does Duke Ellington.
Yes, that's my point. They both play the piano, and that's about as far as it goes.
I don't think there's anything between to weigh up between the two of them as a thing.
Billy Joel is more like Bruce Hornsby from Bruce Hornsby and the Range. Elton John isn't like either of them.
Well, I think Billy Joel is more, maybe Bruce Hornsby is as well. He's more of a sort of a classically trained load of fingers pianist, as
He's a
opposed to Elton.
singer-songwriter who plays the piano,
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
which Elton John isn't. Elton John is a drummer that plays the piano, and someone else writes his lyrics.
Yeah.
indeed. But he could write some good tunes.
He writes some fantastic tunes.
And he can't read music. So, you
And
know.
he can't read music. Yeah, I mean, he's not a sheet music guy. And maybe that's why
No.
he sounds more maybe rhythmic than Billy Joel does, who's more.
Well, the piano
intricate.
is a rhythm instrument. You know, basically the piano is a percussion instrument. So, you know, he plays it like a percussion instrument.
Oh, okay. Was he a drummer at first then?
No, but he plays it that way. He
Plays it that way.
that's what
Okay.
I was alluding to the fact that he plays it rhythmically.
Yeah. No, absolutely, he does.
Talking of drummers that ended up singing, and I didn't put her down on my list, and
I
should
did.
have- Karen Carpenter.
Karen Carpenter, the Carpenters are on my list. You cannot beat the Carpenters. You can't.
No, I should have Karen Carpenter on down.
Like, what a voice. What a producer. What an arranger.
What a
And
drummer.
what brilliant songs.
And
Yeah,
what
she won the best drummer in the world in 1971, didn't she? Or 1970.
did she? Who was she up against?
She did.
Ringo?
I think it was a close run thing between her and Ringo, but she just shaved it in the final minutes.
Bless his heart.
I know. It's his birthday the other day, wasn't it? 85.
Yeah, 85.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Brilliant. I think
Yeah, Karen
Carpenter's
Carpenter, a
I
wonderful,
think the
wonderful
Carpenters are
voice.
fantastic.
I love
Yeah,
them. But I thought they were Canadian, so I didn't count them.
No, not Canadian, as far as I'm aware, anyway. But if they are, they're Canadian Americans. That's what they do. Yeah, they're superb songs. Although
Anybody listening to this podcast, I'm now proving that I did no research for this whatsoever. I am, in fact, making all this up as I go along.
yeah, okay.
Please bear that
It
in mind.
sounds so authentic when you talk bullshit.
Because my father taught both Jeff and I to speak with authority, even when speaking bollocks. So, you know.
It works. It works
does.
absolutely well. So I've gone Billy Joel for one of my favourites anyway. And all right, I'm going to throw another one quickly in. Compared unfavourably a little bit with Bruce Springsteen, but I've gone for another sort of heartland rock artist in John Cougar Mellencamp. That's kind, everybody.
No, I've got the John Cougar Mellencamp Greatest Hits album, and I've played it a couple of times. It's very good. It's the one you recommended me.
Yeah. He's good. He writes some great songs. Still does it.
He's good. Yeah. Should we all agree that he's good? He's
yeah,
good.
we'll agree it's good. Okay.
He's good.
Yeah,
It's done. Good. It's agreed. Jeff, what have you got? Anybody else?
I have. I'll give you a clue for this one. See if you can get it from a clue.
Go on.
Are you ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Bum.
Bing.
How can you have an American favourite without Bing Crosby? How? Like he can't sing, but he delivers fantastically. Easy listening, film score stuff, ballads, jazz. Like there is nothing not to like about Bing. He is so totally inoffensive, and he sung great songs in a fashion that only Bing could do. It shouldn't have worked. There's no reason in God's green earth why he should have been a musical star, but he was, because he's really good at it.
Mm. Well, I got it from the clue. Yep.
Pete, you look ensconced.
That is gone to sleep.
No, I haven't gone to sleep. I just couldn't name you a Bing Crosby song that wasn't White Christmas, and I didn't know what that introduction was.
Really?
No, okay. No, that's just his voice sounding like that. Bob, 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 bob. I think you sort of imagine him doing that noise, can't you? That sound.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Our mother had a Bing Crosby album that I used to play whenever I could. at home.
Really?
Which is usually when Mum and Dad were out, because Dad didn't like it.
Were there other songs other than White Christmas on there? Then?
Yeah, there's loads on it. I'm not going to be able to remember any. I've got a triple big album, would you believe, of my own.
Yeah.
It's great.
Did he sing High Anxiety, or was that? He was in High Anxiety, wasn't he?
He was in High Anxiety. I don't remember, but like, and that sounds awful because I should, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head, and I didn't write anything down.
No, that's fine.
But actually, I can't think of anything. That's really embarrassing. Some will come to me.
It's amusing. It's fun. Let's go with it.
Colin's looking them up.
Oh, I can think of. Oh, he's one with David Bowie. He did, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Little Drummer Boy.
Christmas is Little Drummer Boy.
Little Drummer Boy at Christmas. He
did
the one
Peace
about...
on Earth, wasn't it? When
Bowie
was singing Peace on Earth with him.
Yeah.
I don't know. What?
Do you want me to look it up?
Some songs on.
There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Easter Parade, was that him?
Easter Parade, yeah. That was a film he was in as well.
Legendary Bing Crosby, who we can't think of any other songs by him other than White Christmas. But yeah, he's got a great voice, and he is an iconic American singer, definitely.
I'm going to have to look up some now.
Yeah, go on and look some up and throw us up. You did mention Louis Armstrong earlier on. That was one of yours, wasn't he?
I did, yeah. He was one of my icons.
Yeah,
Swinging on a Star. There you go. Relay. That one's. Do you know that one?
Yeah, I know that one.
I tell you, you don't normally get singing on here.
No.
Which is probably
Still haven't.
Don't Fence Me In. I love Don't Fence Me In. Drifting and Dreaming.
See, look, now you remember them all, and you're not looking them up at all, are you? That's the thing.
I am. Yeah,
from your memory. I'm getting
when Irish Eyes Are Smiling.
Oh yeah, that's an obvious one.
I hate that song. It's
a great song.
It's crap.
He did a load of hymns as well. He did like "Oh Come All You Faithful" and stuff like that.
Well, sorry, he's big on Christmas.
Yes,
he was a very high profile Catholic in the States.
Yes, indeed.
He's in a lot of films, wasn't he?
Oh, hundreds. Yeah.
Apart from the one with
really? Hundreds.
I wouldn't be.
Well, he also did all the stuff with Bob Hope on telly.
Yeah, Bob Hope, Bob and Bing.
He was funny.
He was funny, wasn't he?
He was brilliant.
Bob Hope. He
absolutely. He was brilliant.
Yeah,
right.
Road films.
I will pick a couple of bings for you, Peter, for tomorrow.
Yeah, go on.
Sadly, I'm in meetings. All right, I've got 3 genres left, but I've only got one person in one of the genres. So let's go with the whole jazz fusion thing. If you take the
I know there's going to be.
Hang on, if you take Miles Davis as the starting point and Cannonball Adderley, then that leads us to
Cannon and Ball, did you say there?
No, Cannonball Adderley.
To me, to you, to
Rock
me.
on, Tommy. Rock on, Tommy.
Being on this podcast is like literally being the father to a couple of kindergartners. Good grief.
You are old. You are old. That's true.
You are.
I had a name down that I thought you might have, and whether this ties in with what you're saying, I don't know.
Go on, then.
I've got Pistorius down.
Well, yeah, but he's part of Return to Forever. So, yes, I've got Return to Forever and I've got Weather Report as my 2 jazz fusion favourites.
I don't think you can have Weather Report. I don't think that's allowed.
Why?
Because they're not American.
Yes, they are. Name
apart from all the ones that aren't. There's a Peruvian in there. There's all sorts in there.
Yes, but they're all American. Fine. I'm bored now. So I had them.
And losing an argument.
I'm not losing an argument. I just
they are described as an American jazz fusion band.
Yes, thank you. Which is why I had them down as an American jazz fusion band. But then the other one that I've got in here in that genre bracket is Funkadelic.
All right.
And if we're talking iconic American bands, then George Clinton, Funkadelic, Parliament, Bootsy Collins, they've got to be there. And
I think
Maggot
you're right.
Brain is one of the great albums of 1971, which I play regularly. So they are my other shout out in that particular genre. But I mean, I would have Miles Davis because he's the link back to Weather Report and Return to Forever and all of those kind of spin-off solo things that happened around there. You know, so people like Al Di Meola and all of these guys, the link with all of them is back to what Miles Davis was doing in the 50s and 60s.
And what about Coltrane? Would he be in there?
Yes, I've got quite a lot of John Coltrane stuff as well. So yes, I would have John Coltrane in there of that ilk.
He's very hard to listen to.
Well, to be fair,
I love jazz, but like John Coltrane is really hard to deal with.
Is John Coltrane any harder to listen to than Bitches Brew and Feed a Kilimanjaro?
I don't know. Is it?
I'm just asking the question. I mean, I love Miles Davis, and I love both of those albums, and I have both of them.
Mm.
And if I'm having a jazz day, and I'll have a day where I just listen to jazz all day, then I would play all that stuff. And is it an easy listen? No, but it isn't supposed to be.
Mm.
My mate Dickie refers to it as difficult jazz, and I think that's a good description. I like difficult jazz.
Mm.
If it's got a tune, it's
smooth jazz personally.
Yeah, I think I'd go for smooth over difficult. A lot of jazz for me is difficult. I mean, Louis Armstrong's side, which is different kind of jazz, but it's just a much more jolly sound for me.
One of the great things about working for as many years as I did in Brussels, doing all the work for the EU, was that I was literally there for weeks on end. And in Brussels there is jazz clubs around every corner, and you kind of wander in there at 1 o'clock in the morning when you don't want to go back to your hotel to go to bed, and you have a beer and you listen to guys just doing improv jazz, coming at it from all directions, and you're kind of sitting there going, yeah, there's no tune going on here, but they're really enjoying themselves, so I'm in. And then you have a few left blondes, and you're away with it. All good.
Okay.
Difficult jazz.
I think if I were going into a bar at 1 o'clock and a smoky bar or whatever, I wouldn't be smoking and I wouldn't be drinking in said bar. But it would have to be like jazz. It's got to be like a little trumpeter or something.
At 1 o'clock in the morning, I need Grover Washington. Not. I don't need someone to hurt me.
Well, yeah, Grover Washington would be all right. There were Grover Washington type places as well. Yeah, but it's great. It's one of the great things about Belgium is their love of jazz music, and it doesn't matter where you are, Ghent, Bruges, all of them, jazz bars, brilliant. Anyway, so that's another of my genres knocked over. I've got 2 to go.
2 more genres. Do you want to give us another one then?
All right, I'll do the one. I can't have a conversation about American iconic artists without mentioning the person who has the biggest guitar collection and the biggest vintage amp collection in the world, Joe Bonamassa.
Joe Bonamassa. All right. I didn't have him down on your list.
Single-handedly revived the blues and blues rock.
I think, again, the man on the street might not know him.
Oh, the man on the street wouldn't have a clue.
Know him. I don't know why. I just forgot about him on your list. He wouldn't be on mine, but I forgot about him on your list. And maybe it's simply because he doesn't have any like big hit songs or famous songs, does he? On the whole, that I would know. And as a result of that,
Slow Gin is the song that everybody knows, not least of which is because it was written by Tim Curry.
What, the ice skater?
Everybody who knows it knows it.
Yeah, everybody that knows it.
Yeah,
I've seen Bonamassa twice with Pete, and he's brilliant live. And I've got a couple of his albums, and I play a bit of them occasionally. But I wouldn't have had him in my favourites.
I mean, he would be now right up there at the top of my favourites. Of all of the acts that are still playing, he'd be my number one.
I do have a blues guitarist in my favourites.
Go for it.
But it is not Joe Bonamassa.
That's fine. We don't have to choose the same people.
Me tell. Who is it?
It's Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Good shout.
That Texas, like that sort of Texas sound.
Flood.
It's got the slow, clean stuff that he plays. His guitar is so clean until he decides to Rocky Billy it up a bit, you know.
Yeah.
And I just think they do it so well.
They do.
The band are great. He was just a superb guitarist, and sadly very missed. And yeah, if he'd carried on, probably he wouldn't have been as good. That's often the case, isn't it? Like they just go on too long.
Yeah, we've had this conversation many, many times. You know, if you take, especially if you take someone like Hendrix, who was so out there and so innovative in the 60s, what would Hendrix be like in 2010 if he was still alive? You know, what it would. I mean, we've got no way of knowing.
No.
But if you look at the trajectory of the bands that have been around that time, Quo, the Stones, you know, the McCartney, you know, have they, Elton John, have they continued to create music of the quality? No, they haven't. They've produced good music, but not great music. And I wonder whether even those, and I agree with you, Stevie Ray Vaughan's fantastic. Would they have been the same? I don't think they would. I think
any of them would.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't think there's a single artist of that era that is producing stuff as good as they did in their heyday in the 70s. They just aren't.
Sad, isn't it, really?
Oh,
it is sad and absolutely inevitable.
It is inevitable. And it's what the likes of, say, Billy Joel, who retired really from music in the early 90s. I think he just thought that he wasn't having hits, and he thought, well, I'm past the point now where people are buying my singles and songs. So, and he stopped.
He's not hard up for a bob or two.
No, I suppose not. He's probably toured a little bit with Elton, actually.
He isn't now, but he came back because he was hard up.
Maybe he was,
He was on the verge of bankruptcy, which is why he came back to play.
Sure.
Well, I'm glad he did, because it gives us a chance to see him again, which
Yeah. Brilliant. Superb.
Which was good.
What you got, Cole?
What have I got? Okay, I've got an iconic American band.
Excellent. That's what the podcast's about.
Yeah, and one that I like as well.
Even better.
And one that I'm not sure stinks does on the whole. And it's the Beach Boys.
This is interesting because I had Brian Wilson down as one of, when you drop the icons in later.
Yeah.
He was one of the first ones I wrote down, and I took him out. But yeah,
a bit harsh.
Well,
when you say took him out, are we talking Grassy Knoll?
Oh, don't mention the Grassy Knoll.
Oh, whatever you do. I think I got away with it.
Yeah, we lost Brian Wilson just a couple of weeks ago now, wasn't it? Yeah. He was a genius and a miserable sod probably as well. I don't know him personally, but very creative. The surfing stuff that he did, and then he certainly got a little more innovative with the likes of Good Vibrations and the Three Brothers, and it was like a family thing. That vocal harmonies were great, a bit like Simon and Garfunkel were great harmonizers as well, but the Beach Boys could, and Carl Wilson, voice to die for. Oh, God only knows. So I think I would have to have them as one of my favourites.
I think that's interesting because I think they are an iconic American band for sure. That whole kind of Californian surfer, the fact that they dressed quite natty when everyone else was wearing Levi's and scoop neck t-shirts. I don't own any Beach Boys stuff, and if my dealer said, "Do you want this?" I'd say no. Having said that, when I listen to things like Good Vibrations and Sloop John B and the other kind of iconic
There's
singles,
so many
there are,
singles.
and I absolutely recognise their talent in terms of the vocal harmonies and the songwriting, and I kind of quite enjoy it, but I wouldn't rush out and buy it, and wouldn't choose to
Tune
listen
in to CBW radio. You might hear the odd one every now and again.
I do
I like-
tune
I
into
quite
CBW.
like. I quite like the Beach Boys. But
Good.
they're fun. They
Fun,
have
fun,
a particular sound which is that no one else has done it the same.
No, you're
No
right.
one
There's
else.
no one else like them.
But I think they were very much of their time, and that doesn't necessarily transfer.
No, so what you're saying is that in the 60s, when they were knocking out that stuff they were knocking out, then if you're listening to it in the 60s and the early 70s, it works.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to it in the post-grunge era, it kind of doesn't.
Well, I don't think it works the same way as if you sit a 12 to 18-year-old down and say this is the Beach Boys and they go okay, whereas if you sit them down and say this is the Beatles, some of them will like the Beatles.
Well, they'll like the
Because
Beatles.
there's
They
something
like
about
Oasis.
it's transferred through time, and I'm not certain the Beach Boys in this country at least have done that.
I think the other thing is that the Beach Boys, I mean, I think you're right. They kind of do sit on their own, but I think the band that are probably closest to them are the Mamas and the Papas. And because of the vocal harmony thing and, you know, the way that the songs are constructed. But I think if you sat a 16-year-old down with them, they'd have the same impact.
All right, well, now we're talking vocal harmonies, close harmony specialists. I've got another one for you now that I had to mention as a favourite. Two brothers.
Everly's.
The Everly brothers, yeah.
Yeah, very, 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 very.
Early pioneers of country rock, actually.
Yeah, but a lot of people quote them as saying like it was because of the Everly's that we did what we did.
Yeah.
Like Graham Nash, I remember reading like the Graham Nash thing where they stole into Watch the Everly's, and were matching him and the guy from the Hollies whose name I can't remember, and they were trying to match their harmonies in the back of the stadium.
Oh, really?
The cinema, yeah. So yeah, I think it's a fair shout.
Yeah,
I'm pleased. Okay. How many more we got? How many more we got left? I've got
2.
3 more shouts. Yeah.
Well, I've got 10, but they're all in me rock. They're all in me rock ones, so I'll just throw the names out.
Okay. Well, I've got some other acts that you no doubt this particular act. I've got it on your list, and I'm surprised you haven't mentioned them so far, actually. And that is the Doobie Brothers.
I have the Doobies on my rock list.
On your rock list, so you got a few
Which
more on your rock list.
Which is the one that I haven't done.
Okay. Well, give us a few of them then. You got the Doobies.
Okay, so I've got Hendrix and Janis Joplin and Big Brother as my 2 icons.
Okay.
And then I've got a set of bands which are mostly old but one new one. So I've got Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band.
Oh, okay.
I've got the Doobies. I've got Mountain. I've got Spirit. I've got Alice Cooper. I've got Boston. I've got Journey. And then I've got the Pretty Reckless.
Okay. He's up to date. Okay.
Never heard of Mountain.
You must have heard of Felix Pat. Really? Theme for an Imaginary Western and Nantucket Sleigh Ride.
Good.
Right. Right. That's one song for tomorrow then.
All right. In amongst all the bings.
Bob, 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 bob.
All right, then if that's all your rock ones, or do you have any other standbys?
Yeah, no. I was thinking, and again, I was trying to think what. This was my whole thing about saying that on the rock side, I much prefer the British bands. So all my prog and all my hard rock and all that. And I was thinking about the American bands, and because I took out the Eagles and I took out the Southern rock stuff, I said, well, all right, what's left? So there's a whole bunch of bands I can't stand, like Aerosmith being the classic example of I have no idea why they had the career they had. And then you go, all right, and then there's other bands who aren't really American, so I kind of ruled Santana out. And then they were, well, okay, so what's left? And well, obviously Hendrix and Janis Joplin kind of in a league of their own. And then I thought, well, all right, so what are the other bands that represent America? And I thought, well, Bob Seger is very much that whole Detroit rocker kind of, that whole kind of sound. The Doobies are that very West Coast kind of sing-along rock. Alice Cooper is in a, you know, he's on his own, but he had that golden period with $1 Billion Babies and Killer and, you know, Schools Out, where that was, and really he was the forerunner of bands like Motley Crue and all those kind of things, which none of which I can stand, but you know, that's very much, they're very much American type bands. Spirit were very kind of hippie, trippy, again quite unique on their own. And then you've got those kind of FM rock bands, of which Boston and Journey are your two biggies. And if you say, well, what did American rock give? You know, what's American rock's contribution outside of those subgenres? Then I think that whole FM rock approach, of which Boston and Journey, you could, you know, there's a load of bands you could throw into there, but they would be the two. And you know, all of Journey's stuff is sing along. Most of Boston's first two albums are, so they I think they stand the test of time in terms
Interesting.
of
You mentioned one band there. You said, "Oh, I can't include them," and I had them down as a certainty for you, and it was Santana. Well, it's because he wasn't born in America.
He's Mexican, isn't he?
Mexican, yeah, but they're like an American band in the same way as.
Well, they might be, but I always see him as a Mexican, which is why I didn't choose him.
What about the rest of the band? Are they all the same?
No, they're from all over the place. Well, no, it depends. No, Jose Chepito Arias is Mexican. They're a real mixture. Some of them American. Clearly, you got
almost as much of a mixture as Weather Report are.
He won't forget that one.
Anyway,
here's another one. Surely this one is American. Steely Dan.
Now, can I jump in here?
Go on then.
Because I've got Donald Fagen as one of my two left.
Okay.
And I've got Donald Fagen because solo, he's superb, and with Steely Dan, he's brilliant. So that's why I've got him.
I've talked about Steely Dan on many occasions since we did this podcast together, so they were another band I left off deliberately.
No, I wouldn't leave them off if they were a top band, even if it's only a mention. Steely Dan. I mean,
well, okay,
that's why I haven't brought him up yet, because we've talked about him before.
Yeah. Walter Becker doesn't get much of a shout out, does he? With his,
well, he's dead, isn't he?
I know he is now, but
do you know that he gave up playing the bass because he started playing the bass, and he gave up and learnt the guitar because Chuck Raynor, they picked up Chuck Raynor along the way, and he went, "Yeah, I can't compete with that, so I'll play guitar. I'll play guitar instead."
Well, he took over from Skunk Baxter, didn't he? Because Skunk Baxter went to. Did he play in the Doobies? Didn't he? No, who did he go to?
Skunk Baxter played with everybody.
Yeah,
he was a guitar whore.
A guitar whore.
So I've got one more, Colin, if you want it. And then I've got one that I want to drop in just because I think they should be there and I haven't got space in my 10.
All right. Go on, tell us your last one.
I've got Glenn Miller.
Oh,
there are so many big there are so many big bands, Basie, Ellington, Tommy Dorsey, all of that lot, and they're all fantastic, but actually you could quite easily listen to an hour of them and go, I'm sure I've heard this before. Whereas Miller had a very distinctive sound, played very distinctive songs, all of which are different. Same sound, but they're clearly a different sort of song each time, you know. And I just think he was a huge loss. And that war sound, that big sort of, well, that semi-big band sound. It wasn't a big band, like a semi-big band. So yeah, I'll put in Glenn Miller because
Did
I
they
think
ever
I
find
think he's
him?
an icon, and he's definitely one of my favourites.
Did they ever find his body? Did
I don't believe so.
No, they didn't.
they never found it?
No.
No.
So
One
who
of my dad's
knows?
favourites, Glenn Miller.
Perhaps he's living on an island with Elvis somewhere.
Possibly.
Can I just throw in, because these guys very nearly made it, Manhattan Transfer.
Oh, okay. Another one of my dad's favourites.
Well, like
I
you were
think the
talking about
girl at the
Close
front
Harmonies
he
earlier,
enjoyed.
huh?
The girl at the front he enjoyed, I think.
You were talking about Close Harmonies earlier. Like
Yeah.
they were really, really good at it.
Mm.
And Pastiche is a fantastic album. But
I had Pastiche. I recently sent it to the Oxfam shop.
well, I still have it. It's one of the few I have on CD and on vinyl, and it's a great album. But all of theirs are great.
It was bought for me as an engagement present by Graham Buckham,
Oh.
who I was at university with. If you
Well,
remember.
there we go. He was very, very clearly a sensible man. But anyway, they were just a shout out who very nearly made it into my favourites, but didn't quite.
Didn't quite make it. All right. Well, I'm just going to give three. I've got three other names here that I thought should be in my favourites. One of which is the Ramones.
Yeah.
Iconic punks from New York. Desperately disappointed that none of them are actually called Ramone, but they all had Ramone as a name. Do you know how they got their name Ramones, as a matter of interest? I might have said this
Go
before.
on.
Well, apparently, Paul McCartney, when he booked into hotels, used to put under the name of Paul Ramon
Okay.
as an alias.
Yeah.
They use the word Ramones.
Not to be
and
confused
that-
with Paul Raymond, who ran a review bar in Soho.
Paul Raymond, yeah, with a D on the end. This is just Ramon. Yeah. So the Ramones, a big influence on a lot of bands, like the New York Dolls, of course, of the same ilk. And actually, another one that I could mention that formed out of the New York Dolls with Johnny Thunders and the drummer Jerry Nolan left, and I think teamed up with Richard Hell from television for a little while as well. And they formed a band called the Heartbreakers. Not Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, which is one of my other names I got down here, but the Heartbreakers. They had one album, which is a great classic punk rock album. Crap sound on it, production by Speedy Keen. But it has been remixed, and it is a superb sound album now. I might even play one, you never know, tomorrow. Speedy Keen, does that name ring a bell? Speedy Keen, the producer? He was a drummer and a vocalist for Thunderclap Newman.
Oh, okay.
There's something in the air. Big
There
one hit
is.
169. Tom Petty, I briefly mentioned there. I always considered him the grandfather of punk when it was 76, 77. Only 3 solo albums he had, but he had a number with, or a couple with the Wilburys, and 13 with the Heartbreakers. One of the biggest selling artists of all time, in fact. So I had to have him in there. Tom Petty, another one sadly lost to us. And the other one, maybe it always goes under the radar, I always think, and that's REM as a band. It's an alt rock band, alternative rock band from Athens, Georgia. And
I think
I mean,
REM are a little bit Marmitey.
Marmite.
Like you either like them or you don't.
Yeah, I guess you don't.
I don't mind. They've got some great songs.
They have. And the
like
I hear of them,
really, really
more
great
are
songs.
good songs. They're more good songs. I mean, whether it be Man on the Moon,
Yeah,
is
Man
it?
on the Moon. Yeah, Man on the Moon.
Side of Wonder Sleeps Tonight, Stand, Shiny Happy People, It's the End of the World as we know
Don't
it.
go back to
You'll
Rockville, which I think was
Find.
their first single. It's just superb.
Superb stuff. Yeah. But yeah, the vocal is distinctive. Michael Stipe, distinctive vocal sound. But there's some, you might like some melodic bass lines from Mike Mills in the band.
There is.
Well, yeah, I don't need to go on too much about them, but the likes of, in the early 90s, Nirvana, Pixies, Pavement have all cited REM as a pioneer of the genre, basically, of alternative rock. So that's it. REM for me. That's probably all of them so far. Unless we've got any little throw-ins, have we?
Well, I think we've all forgotten Dolly.
Well, I've got Dolly stroke
You
Patsy
wish.
Cline. But Dolly
Patsy
Patsy Cline,
Cline,
which would be an
yeah.
interesting video. But yeah, Patsy Cline. I don't know what is. Dolly was the. I don't know. Was Patsy Cline the Queen of Country, or was that
Well,
Dolly Parton?
Dolly's called the Queen of Country,
Yeah, but she's
but
not
in
really.
which case Patsy Cline's probably the grandmother or the Queen Mother or something.
Right, okay. The
But
Queen Mother. The Queen Mother.
you haven't included Linda Ronstadt in your list of favourites. I'm surprised.
No, I haven't. There's just so many I could have
Yeah.
in here. Linda Ronstadt is one. Well, I didn't even put Karen Carpenter in, did I? So I should have Linda
Nor did
Ronstadt.
I did. I'm faithful to the end.
Well done. I should have had Linda Ronstadt in, definitely. I don't think there's anyone else. America, the band America as well, a good band.
Yeah, I thought about them and decided not to.
Well, it's a thought that counts. And you're a big Doors fan, aren't you? The Doors.
I am. Yeah, I've got the Doors as shout outs. I've got the Nat King Cole Trio as a shout out. And we haven't really mentioned Michael Jackson, have we?
No, I mentioned him at the start because I thought he was an icon, and that idea was poo-pooed, I think. So,
but
he's
very good. He was very good at what he did.
He's very good, and not together all the time. My taste in music,
but again, Prince is the same.
Appreciate that they are good.
Prince is the same. Like
Prince,
wrote some fantastic songs. Great guitarist.
I can't stand Prince.
You can't stand Prince?
No.
That's a shame because he spoke really highly of you.
Yeah,
I've been told
that. As well. I've heard that too. But even Prince, you must like the odd song by Prince. Otherwise, unless you're being very blinkered.
No, I just don't like him.
You don't like Purple Rain? You don't like When Doves Cry?
It's all right. I don't understand the whole aura around Prince. I get that that a load of people like him. I've just never understood why.
Well, he's a very, very, very good guitarist.
Very good guitarist.
Apparently so.
I like Raspberry Beret, which I know is probably not one of his more whatever. But
Raspberry Beret, yeah, good one.
It's
Alphabet Street, 1999. Little Red Corvette. He did some great songs, and most of these artists I can think, oh yeah, like I wouldn't listen to them all day. Figuratively or literally.
That's why I didn't include them on my list.
Ah, right, okay. But if you gave me like a bunch of 12 songs, in other words, a greatest hits, probably, I could sit and listen to them, and I could say that about so many different artists.
Yeah.
Right, so at least we haven't mentioned Yes today. At least we couldn't really, could we?
They're English.
Because they're English, yeah.
I've been watching a lot of YouTube prog stuff this week. It's been cheering me up greatly.
Okay, well, I think we've done everything.
We have.
There's nothing else we can do. We got there in the end, by hook or by crook. Whether I've been blamed for not really detailing the.
Excuse me, we wouldn't blame you. We just raised the issue that there was a slight flex in your project planning.
He blamed me. He blamed me, folks. He blamed me. But we got there. We got there in the end.
It was Colin's fault.
Yeah, and he did come up with some icons.
It's your show. You can do what you like.
Yeah. Which I've said on numerous occasions. Yeah, it's why in the new artwork he is at the front.
And rightly so.
Because he is Big C.
You are the last mentioned in the intro as well.
I can't. I'm a bit embarrassed about that. I've got to be honest.
No, it's purely alphabetical. That's
I've never given less of a toss about anything.
He says through gritted teeth. Right, thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much, guys. Maybe we should have done a Live Aid one in the end, but you didn't remember much of Live Aid, did you?
And not only that, I went through all of the Wikipedia stuff about Live Aid. I didn't remember any of the acts. I didn't remember any of what they sung. I didn't remember any of the story. And I thought, right, and my experience of Live Aid was U2, Queen, and Status Quo. End of. That was it.
Didn't Phil Collins do a dash across the ocean?
Yes, he flew on Concorde and played in both places.
Yeah. He did. Yeah,
That
yeah.
was
And-
the highlight of the American side of the
yeah, the American side wasn't great, was it?
No, there
A
was
lot
all
of the
kinds of
English
problems.
bands were on there. The Who were on the
Yeah,
American.
and the Who and Zeppelin and a few
Zeppelin,
others. But
yeah,
there was
Dylan.
yeah,
They were
But
all
there
pretty
was,
local, weren't they?
there was all kinds of issues with the sound system and everything. So they kept losing the live feed and everything. It was chaos. But
Well,
anyway,
at least I didn't get blamed by Led Zeppelin for their performance, but Phil Collins did.
Which is
Apparently
important.
so.
Really?
Yeah, he got blamed. They blamed
Because
Phil Collins.
he played drums for him, didn't he?
He played drums, didn't he? Bit poor, isn't it?
Well, he ain't John Bonham, is he? Let's
He
be
was
honest.
knackered from his journey across on
Yes,
Concord.
he was.
Poor old
What it
fella.
was. I remember him starting the song over in. He sang Against All Odds, didn't he? And he got to the States, and I think it must have been like 8 o'clock in the evening there. And yeah, he started. It's a funny old world, isn't it? And he started to play again. Good song. Well, you might hear some performances from Live Aid if you're listening to the show on Friday. That is because it is the 40th anniversary of Live Aid coming up this weekend. That's why I was thinking about doing a Live Aid one. But I'll do some shows, some songs from that on Friday on the radio show, which I'll be back on air tomorrow morning. Remember, CBW Radio. Yeah, usual time, 8 a.m. for the UK listeners, 3 a.m. if you're up in the States. That's the end of this podcast anyway. Thank you very much, Stinky Pete. And thank you very much, Jazzy Jeff. There, I got you first on that top there, Pete. If you're happy with that. This podcast will be posted to the usual places, including Spotify, which is the one that most people use. And you can check it out on the website. It'll be there for a little while. Facebook are deleting things now. It's also on YouTube as well. You can check it out on the Real CBW Productions YouTube channel. It'll be on there forever, probably. And yeah, that is it. So one day, maybe, not only YouTube, but we will be on
The BBC.
Possibly. Oh, talking of which, did you see that Wayne Rooney's got a job on Match of the Day? As a
Did you
pundit?
see the
I
absolutely
saw the
brilliant
answer.
The
The
answer?
answer
That
says
was fantastic.
He's going to get Match
He's
of the
going to
Day
get him
relegated
to BBC
to
Two.
BBC Two. Excellent.
That was that won the
That was
internet
class.
today. That
was
was
class.
just a brilliant retort.
It was.
I absolutely was in stitches when I saw that. That was
Was
just
hilarious.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Fantastic.
Well, all that's left for me to say is good night from me.
Good night from me.